made by Dr. Marriott, who was doing the school or computing the design. And we also use the same layout on business cards.
A treasure tree was a gift to my parents in 1957 at a housewarming they had. They built a dream house in Long Beach, California, and they got a 6.5-foot wooden tree with 5 shelves in it. And it's been used every year since as a Christmas tree. Sometimes with decoration, sometimes with cookies and cakes. And as a learning tool, when you play you, the higher the shelf, the smaller the gift, the better the gift. And we began this, thinking about this, in Christmas of 2020. We came home from the Christmas Eve service, and Edie and I were having a glass of wine. And Edie looked at, we call her Granny, which is a girl. Granny has grandchildren. So we looked at that, and she said, there's a business here. And after a couple more glasses of wine, there's a business here. And what we're going to do is build trees like this and sell them and give the proceeds to local nonprofits with a special focus of from kids into music. And so that is a treasure tree. And the slogan that emerged from that was, the treasure tree is a work of art, and you are the artist.
So from the very beginning, we knew that we needed to add more products to the original branding that was the 6.5-foot tree with the 5 shelves. And so we immediately designed the 4-foot version with 3 shelves. And then just this past fall, we have added the 2-shelf tree, which is about 2.5 feet tall. And the acrylic one in the back is the 2.5-foot tree. The original tree was cut out of Baltic birch. Baltic birch is the gold standard of plywood. It's a very lightweight wood, but in the process of making the plywood, they don't stack the plies. They turn them at 90-degree angles, so it's a very strong material, and therefore can bear quite a bit of weight. Then Lamont had the great idea that we should have an acrylic tree. And one of the best parts about the acrylic tree is if it's on a table, you can see through it. So it can be a table setting, it can be decoration at large parties. And again, it's the 3 sizes, the 2, the 3, and the 5 shelves.
Our milestones in 2021, we started the paperwork for starting the business. We now have trademark protection and copyright protection. We created the first computer-aided design and started cutting prototypes. We added the acrylic version to the product line. We re-engineered and redesigned branding to a 3-legged tree rather than 4 because production costs and the conical shape of the tripod is more conical. We placed our first trees in the Carmel Valley benefit shop, and we sold 3 of them that year in 21, and all the proceeds went to the Hidden Valley Music Seminars, which is an organization, nonprofit that does youth and music seminars.
And from the beginning, some of the challenges that we've had, both starting in 2021 and this year, is finding someone, a workshop, who would work with us in small quantities. And the second thing is to make the acrylic finials at the top. The wood ones were easy, the acrylic finials were difficult. So 2022 has been a very busy year from us. Having had a career in public health, I knew I needed to learn something about marketing. So I enrolled in marketing classes at Monterey Bay College. And then we entered the startup Monterey Bay, came in as a runner-up in our division with prize money of $1,500, which was terrific. And then since then, I joined the Launchpad program, I joined the Carmel Chamber of Commerce, also Monterey County Hospitality Association, and most recently, BNI Business Networking International, which, if you don't know about it, is a wonderful organization that gives referrals the whole concept is all the members try to get referrals to each other to run your business. So in 2022, we've also continued to refine and test our prototypes. And as we said, the most recent version is the 2.5-foot tree. And then taking advantage of CSUMG again and working with we got involved with the KIT virtual program, working with Dan Cookie as well as Vinesh Prabhu, the student. And we are now published and online. So that was a major accomplishment. And most recently, we have placed our trees in Carmel Valley and a shop in Warrenburg. And have had our first sales both on the corporate side as well as the retail side. And we just sold 2 today.
For 23, we hope to add a contemporary style with rather than the sort of French swoops, a very angular look to be very different. We hope to standardize the shelf sizes across all the trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can buy a tree with that, and you just put the frames and things. It's very easily interplayed. And always, of course, keeping Lippe USA inside. We want to ascertain production capability with our current supplier and his story. Lin Tran, Vietnamese guy in San Jose, immigrant, has started a CNC, CDC, all the various alphabet to make these things, and he has produced our last study. And as of last week, he's partnered with another guy, and they have doubled their capacity. So we can still get small, runs, but you can get them, and he is good. And then we are working with the California Manufacturing Technology Consultant to streamline our production process. Those are our goals for 23.
So now that we have product validation, now that we know that we can actually rely on our workshops to produce the trees, 2023 is going to be a big marketing push for us. And on the B2C side, what we want to do is place more trees in brick-and-mortar stores, both as product for them to sell as well as display units for their merchandise. We want to be working with museum shops, both in the shops itself and catalogs, and we will establish an online store ourselves, and most likely it'll be Etsy to get that kind of craft flair, homemade feel.
And on the B2B side, we are talking with decorators, home decorators. We're talking with event and wedding planners. We spoke with some of them, a couple of those party retail companies, party rental companies, because they have food. You can put food in it. Hotels and inns and corporations, because one of the things that we have learned is that there is a huge wow factor, especially that small equipment. And last Friday, we sold 3 of those to a sole practitioner, estate attorney, and planner, and she's giving them to her clients, or custom clients, I guess, who sign up. And in that way, as we pitched her, we said, you turn your client into an advocate. And not just for her business, but for a treasure tree.
Should fill it with dumpling.
Any questions? This is very cool. This is so fascinating to me watching these businesses. We see them when they apply to Startup Challenge or when they're just getting started in Startup Factory, and then you see where they come in a short time. I mean, this is less than a year. This business has come a very long way. Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
First, just as a metric, I mean, what is a 5-level run in both the wood and the acrylic?
I'm sorry.
The pricing?
Pricing.
On the pricing, on the retail side, if you want to do wholesale, we're happy to work with you. They're $225, $375, and $500 for the 6.5 foot.
In both wood and acrylic or what?
They're both pretty much the same.
Okay.
There's a little bit of difference. We've tried to keep it interchangeable.
I just think the corporate gift thing is really has a lot of potential.
That is one of our biggest targets. I was just in, I met with the general manager at Mercedes-Benz in Monterey, and they have some restrictions about what they can do, but we're planting those seeds because it's a high-end luxury product. And what we learned from Lamont's mother getting this as a gift was it's a lifelong thing. They will always remember you. They'll still be, it even led us to build a business. So it's very impactful.
Do you inscribe it on?
Yeah, we do logos, in the acrylic especially, a treasure tree as well as the company.
Okay, is it descriptive enough that if they search on it on a search engine, they'll find you?
I think they will. Will they find us on a search engine?
There's probably some work to be done there. Yeah. Cool. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Now, given the treasure tree and now Carmel honey, one of the questions you hear about entrepreneurship at times is, what's the right age to become an entrepreneur? And we are about to prove that the right age is whatever the hell age you happen to be when you've got an idea that you want to pursue. Because we just saw a couple who are a little later in life.
Retired.
And now retired, right? And you've got a great project that is turning into a real business here. And now we've got on the very other end, so in 2014? Yeah, 2014, this little kid shows up to Startup Challenge to pitch his honey business. We all sort of pat him on the head and say, isn't he cute, and all that. Well, here he is, a few years and $1 million later, and he's built this amazing business, and he's going to tell you a little bit about that, so I won't give away the rest of it. But it's so much fun watching. And you're not this little kid that we patted on the head anymore. Thanks, Jake. So this is Jake Reese. Ice Store of the Carmel Honey Company. Take it away, Jake.
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys all about my company and about my products. My name is Jake Reisdorf. I'm the owner and operator of Carmel Honey Company. And I'm talking a little bit about how I first got involved in this company at such a young age. And I'm talking about a little bit about the different products that our company actually produces and sells. So I first got involved in this company back when I was in 5th grade, believe it or not, back when I was 11. My 5th grade teacher actually came into the classroom and assigned anybody a project. He wanted us to think about the future when we would grow up. Everyone got assigned different jobs. People got assigned to be doctors, dentists, and I was assigned to be a website designer. A little bit different from a beekeeper, I realized, but there is a connection there. I actually went home and did research on what a website designer does. And I found that not only do they make websites, but they also make social media. And I thought, well, this would be awesome if I made my own website. And so I found this thing called GoDaddy. I found that you actually build your own website for just 99 cents at the time. So that's why I decided to do. I built this whole website, but I needed to have a topic for it. I couldn't just have a blank website and present to my class. So I decided on bees and beekeeping to be my topic. So I made social media for it, I made this whole website, and I just was looking for something that was interesting. I'd actually taken a course before that, but I wasn't keeping bees at the time. So you can imagine my surprise when I came into my classroom and everybody was like, oh my gosh, can I buy some of your honey? I was like, whoa, I'm not actually doing this. I wasn't even doing this right now. And they're like, you know what, if you were doing this, I would totally buy your honey. And so from there, I decided to start keeping bees on a very small scale. I actually got my first hive. I actually pulled them on the floorboards of a tough shed with a shop vac. I sucked them out. That was my first hive. And from that, I slowly kept expanding. I went from 10 hives to 20 hives to 50 hives, all the way up to 180 hives now. It's with the Carmel Valley and down the coast. So that's how I first got involved with bees. But I also decided to get into this with my family. I've been doing this with my mom, who's here with me today, and the rest of my family as well, my sister and my dad. So it's been a great family business this has become. So I'm very appreciative that I'm able to do this with them. But it has evolved over the years. My first beginning website so slowly evolved into something much bigger. This is what it looks like nowadays, much better than what it looked like before. It is still the same website, actually. It's just been updated over the years. But now that looks a lot better. So I kind of have three main parts to my company. My Jake Gives Back, my premium honey, and my retail stores. So my Jake Gives Back, I found very quickly that the business has a big education side to it. A lot of people don't really know that much about bees or about beekeeping, and so I decided to go out and talk to people about it. In particular, a lot of kids, a lot of schools. You tend to have a lot of people coming in and talking about different jobs, but you don't have a lot of beekeepers or farmers coming to classroom and talk about what they do. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me to get out there and talk a little bit more about bees and about beekeeping. I also give a portion of our proceeds back to honeybee research and education every year. These are just a couple of the places that we give it back to. Because as some of you might know, bees are kind of having a hard time out there. We lose about 20 to 30% of our hives every year. Unfortunately, that's due to a whole bunch of different problems, not just one problem. We're not really the scientists who are coming up with the cures for the bees, but we can support the people who are, so we need that game. Of course, the main part of my company is, of course, the honey. When I first started off, I only had one variety. I did wildflower honey, is what it was called. It's just kind of a multi-source varietal. It comes from just whatever's in your backyard, basically. It could be balabrush, eucalyptus, rosemary, lavender, all kinds of things. But over the years, I started to have other different varietals. We now do 4 different kinds. We do a clover honey, an orange blossom, a wildflower, and a meadow honey. So you can come to the stores and check these out. We have 4 different locations. These are what they look like here. Our first one, which we first opened up, our Carmel location 5 years ago. Before that, I was just doing farmers markets and smaller events, specialty events, wine events, and food events, farmers markets, that sort of thing. But over time, people said, hey, I want you guys to have a location where I can come to any time of the day, any day of the week. And so we decided to open up our store here in Carmel. Over the years, we've opened up a couple other ones. We opened up our Monterey Bay location, which is in Monterey, right next to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. You can go and visit that one. We also have 2 up in San Francisco recently. We've opened up our Ferry Building location, which is kind of more of a kiosk here, but it's very nice. And we also have our Pier 39 location right over there. These have been definitely big steps for us. We found very quickly that we needed to continue to push on the retail side and to engage with these customers, allow them to try the product, to see the product, to feel the product. And if we found out that if they were able to do those things, then a lot of the time they come back and repurchase from us. So we've been really focusing lately on online, trying to grow online sales. When COVID happened and all the stores got shut down, and that was very tough for us. So we needed to switch gears and focus more on online and providing our product for them through different means. Now, of course, a lot of people ask me, what can we do to help? How can I help the bees? And so I can't let you guys leave today without giving you guys a little bit of knowledge. So this is usually what I say. You can plant bee-friendly plants in your gardens. Obviously, I know a lot of people out there have bee-friendly plants in their area or in their own backyard. But making sure that it's a good nectar source and pollen source are very important. Also, to rotate your garden, not just have annuals, have something that blooms year-round. Like during this time of year right now, during the winter time, it's very difficult for the bees to find a good food source. So being able to provide that for them is essential. Also providing a water source, more during the spring and summertime, the internal temperature of the hive needs to stay at around 93 degrees. And so if it gets above that, the bees need to cool off somehow. And so they do that by collecting water, bringing it back to the hive, spreading it along the interior walls of the hive, and then circulating that cooler air like interior air conditioner. You can also support a local beekeeper and eat real raw honey. Unfortunately, a lot of honey out there in the store shelves has been cut or other things have been added to it. Up to 70%, at least in study shows, honey on big box store shelves has been improved in some way. So it's kind of difficult to actually find what's real and what's fake, as honey is a single source product, similar to like olive oil or maple syrup. There's usually not an ingredients label on the back, for example. So being able to buy from your local farmer's market or buying from somebody who trusts or specializes in it is very important. But you can visit us at CarmelHoneyCompany.com. We have a lot of really great holiday gifts, gift boxes, and gift sets. So if you guys need any gifting ideas, feel free to check us out or visit us on our social media. We're very active on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and such, so feel free to check us out there. Or just send us an email or give us a call. Thank you so much.
So what's the status of the bee emergency these days?
Yeah, well, for us at least, it's getting better. Over the years, we've seen that it's been getting better. We really don't know if it's us getting better at what we do, or the bees getting better, but there has been a lot of new controls coming out to help fight off these natural diseases that we're seeing playing a big role in harming the bees. And so these better controls on pesticides and herbicides and better controls for these natural diseases that are coming out where we can use more tools in our toolbox to help fix the problems that the bees are having allows us to do our job better.
So it's not at the crisis stage that it was a few years ago anymore, it sounds like.
Right now, it's kind of like a running battle, for example, because farmers are continuing to plant more crops. And so we're seeing a higher demand for bees over the years. Almonds, oranges, which are very big here in California, all need pollination. So to be able to pollinate those, you need a bee, or multiple honeybees, in fact, to be able to pollinate them. So the demand keeps going up, and the bee supply is kind of been stagnant or kind of faltering. So that's why it's very important right now to focus on helping out the bees in any way we can.
Sounds like you're in a space of increasing margins in that case.
Yeah, well, we're not really focused on pollination. We're more a honey production company. We don't do almond pollination and such, but it is very important.
Two questions.
Sure.
Are any of your hives located anywhere near any 5G towers? And does that affect them? And the second question is, when you sell clover honey, for instance, how do you know for sure that those bees are only feeding off of clover?
Yeah, sure. So, with the 5G towers, we have not seen any problems with them. We really don't see too many problems with like cell towers or anything like that. Most of our hives are not located near any highly density populated areas. We try to keep them away from people in their own area, so they can do their own thing. Your other question, which is a good question, how we actually determine what a varietal is. The bees themselves fly a 1 and 5 mile radius away from the hive. And in that 5 mile radius, the bees need to pollinate or collect that nectar source, right? About 80 to 90%, that type of nectar source, can be considered that type of honey. So that's how you can mainly know what you're collecting. You can also send it off and get it tested to see exactly what the makeup of it is. So if we have a new location, we'll move our bees in there. We'll get that honey back, we'll have it send it off, get it tested, and then we'll know what that location produces during that time of year.
You mentioned that the honey that you buy in the big box, so that is altered. How is that altered? Are they adding corn syrup or adding?
Yeah, usually it's additives being added into it, so corn syrup or rice syrup are very common. And that's just because usually if you have a jar of honey, and just as an example, you can sell it for $10, but you can cut it right with corn syrup or rice syrup. Now you have 2 of that same size, now you can sell it for $5 a piece and kill the competition. And that's how you get honey that's extremely cheap, where you have gallons of honey going for like $5 and such, where it's just not possible. Beekeepers just can't sell it for that much.
Is there any kind of organization that certifies pure honey versus not?
There isn't exactly a bigger organization that does that. They obviously try to prevent it from coming in the first place. A lot of it comes in from country to country. For example, some countries have double the amount of export than their actual production. So obviously that can't be possible. But yeah, so that's usually the most common ways of doing it. There's also tests to check to make sure that that honey is obviously pure. But it's very difficult to do because it's coming, it's so common. You see pretty much any store you go to, you're going to see honey. A lot of the time, it's not really the store's fault, so they're just looking for what the lowest price is. And so a lot of the time, they unknowingly buy and so it's difficult.
From the consumer standpoint, there's nothing that I can look at. I can't see a little logo.
Yeah, unfortunately, there
It's
isn't
like
right now.
grade A, US grade A.
Buy from him.
Yeah, even if there's a lot of companies that even say like pure honey, real honey, raw honey on the label, it's no guarantee.
I don't
It's
trust
just the
them.
company saying, trust me. So we just gotta do more research on that company and look into their background, if they've been used on social media, on their website, where they're located, and that's how you can trust them. But obviously, it's a big problem right now, and beekeepers are working towards a solution. Recently, there was a big legal battle happening in the courts where the beekeepers basically sued the government for letting in all this honey without proper controls.
Sounds like maybe a next project there, Jake. You can start certifying other people's houses.
Yeah. For sure. That's quite a tall task. Okay.
Thank you very much. I do want to take a moment, because this has always been a fascination to me. You know, when you see a little kid come into a competition like this, parents coming there, at least for me, the first question that pops in my head is, you know, are the parents pushing the kid? You know, what's going on here? And we've heard of things happening, but I have been exposed to Jake's parents over time and watched them work with him, and absolutely empower. Well, you can see he's not exactly Mr. Shy Guy anyway, but you have done such a wonderful job of supporting him, and you have done such a wonderful job of supporting your family, you know, in supporting you. It's just been a really, really fabulous project watching it unfold. Thank you very much for being a part of this and for coming back. What's up next? We're going to go to, all right, so now we go to actually the source of the kind of honey for lots of people, but their own product. Ryan with Lavender Creek, who's also doing really, really well.
Hi, my name is Ryan from Lavender Creek. We have a presentation of a couple products passed around here. My wife and I co-founded the company. We are a lavender farm that planted 4,000 lavender plants all the way down Carmel Valley Road, and we have a catalog of a kind of wellness brand of focusing on lavender, healthful properties, bath and beauty type products, culinary dried lavender. My wife and I actually left our careers, moved up from Los Angeles. My background is business sales. I worked for a Shark Tank company owned by Mark Cuban and Robert Rickenback. My wife has a background in finance. We moved up here, and around the time of the competition, in May, we were converting a 70-acre ranch into a lavender farm. It's a really cool ranch. It's solar powered, so we have solar powered pumping the water that then gravity feeds the irrigation down into the lavender plants. And planted 4,000 English lavender plants. It's a variety called Royal Velvet. It's a good culinary variety. It's a really well-rounded variety. It's long stem, really nice color, smells great. And so that was a lot of work that we did this summer and put that together. At the same time, we started to look for white label manufacturers to help us put together the lavender products. So we are working with several U.S. suppliers that kind of share our values, looking for natural ingredients, kind of sustainable ingredients. And we put the products together, a dozen products. We have them all on Amazon now. We're selling them direct to consumer. So we're also selling business to business. In August is when we finished putting together all the products, and we have the inventory here in our garage. And also in August, a bit of a personal story, my wife gave birth to a baby boy at Chomp. And as she was going into labor, she told me to bring the samples. I was really, really nervous, and I just thought, okay, whatever, I We always felt like they had a good fit, at least in the hospital gift shop. So we went to the hospital and we had a baby boy and everything was fine. And the next morning she said, go find purchasing and show them our samples. And I thought, it's gonna make me look so bad. Like, you have a baby, and I'm over here like selling stuff. Anyways, I dropped out the samples with the gift store. And 20 minutes later, purchasing called me. They said they love Lavender. They love the products. They're gonna put them in the gift store, but they're also, for every patient who delivers and has a baby at the birthing center there, they're going to go home with our soothing lavender products. So since then, we are working with Stanford Children's Hospital, the French Medical Center down in San Luis Obispo, the Memorial, and we're also working with Elroy's, thanks to a recommendation from Emily. And most recently, we are doing a little bit of corporate gifting. We put together these really nice kind of gift baskets and of different sizes, and actually the Monterey County Convention and Visitors Bureau is now gifting them to the VIPs who come to Monterey, to their VIPs that are traveling to Monterey. Lastly, I guess most recently, we're having a good cheap war on Amazon. It's kind of a cool stat. We are one of the MOQs for the bath salt that I passed around. Is now the exact amount that Amazon is requesting I send into fulfillment, which means I don't have to ship it to California, it just goes straight into fulfillment. And that was kind of one of our goals, is to see kind of if that, first of all, if we do that, and it was really interesting to see which product it was that did that. So yeah, we have a dozen products now on Amazon, and having a great quarter, cheap quarter. And yeah, that's it. Yes, that's kind of the part that we're really figuring out the most. We knew the least about that side of the business, but we're really hoping to turn it into kind of almost like an agritourism type destination. So there are 65 rows on the left side, driving down Carmel Valley Road. On the right-hand side is Piney Creek, which is why we call ourselves Lavender Creek. We're hoping, and I don't know exactly when, I don't know if it's going to be next year, maybe the year after that, but we're hoping people can come, they can maybe do photo shoots, maybe even down the road it could be some kind of like wedding venue. So that's kind of really dreaming at this point, but something that we're working towards.
Do you sell wholesale for private label?
Are we selling private label?
Yeah, for a private label. Would you open a deal with selling to a private label?
Yeah, I'm sure we could work that out. Yeah, I mean, we are working with these manufacturers, and but I'm sure that's something we can figure out. Yeah, very organic. Most of the products is organic. Some of it's completely organic. Some of it is like partially organic, but it's something we can do as well. I'm sure it's all organic.
Have you considered hosting some beehives?
We did when we heard about them, and we thought that was so cool, and we it was actually our first chance to meet them here at the event.
And lavender dumplings.
It is a culinary variety. I mean, I think it's Why Lavender? Well, again, we were living in Los Angeles. I actually went to high school here, born in SoCal. My wife's from Burbank, many generations, and we actually got married though in Carmel Valley at Home Ranch. And it was, we had handmade lavender soaps, and my wife really liked essential oils, I liked the history, and it just kind of all came together from that experience. We started to do our homework on like how could we leave LA, kind of live this changed lifestyle, a little bit more rural. What could we grow? And so we found that lavender was, really good climate fit, drought resistant, pest resistant, kind of something that's kind of easy to grow. You can kind of just put it in the ground, and it does pretty well here. So after doing that kind of homework, we felt like lavender was going to be the best fit for us. Yes. Yeah, we've gone there a couple of times. We met. We've definitely networked with local lavender companies. There's, we got some advice there. We met Creekside Farms. They're pretty interesting. They do Suites. They work with Pottery Barn and Lippe Flowers. So these are some other companies that we have as advisors in a sense. And we definitely consult with them.
Cool. Thank you very much. Wow, 4 really cool businesses. Doing so incredibly well. This is so much fun. So we're going to shift a little bit to a little bit of a different kind of presentation. The next two companies, our last two presenters, are starting or in the middle of the second one. The first one is starting a round of going out and getting funding to expand their business. So the tone on this one is a little bit different. These first ones we're finding out about what their businesses are and how they got them started, which is always fascinating. I love your question, well, where did that idea come from anyway? We all have those, right? And now into looking at, we've got two companies who are out here saying, hey, we've got our businesses, we're up and running, we want to grow, we need money to grow. So we want to look at them with that eye and help them out with some questions and see whether these are interesting companies we would want to invest in. And the first one is the winner of this year's Startup Challenge Venture Division, Little Feet Packaging. And Nicholas is just love working with him. He's so fun. Really cool guy and a tinkerer at heart. I visited these machines that he built. He gives them names. What are the names of your machines? Delilah. Max.
One machine needs a name, so.
Maybe we should have a naming contest.
Samson. Samson.
So, Nicholas, tell us about Little Feet Packaging. Right.
And thank you, Brad, and Rachel, and the CSU team for giving us this opportunity every time. And probably some of this, been one of these before, is a little bit repetitive, but there is some new things and developments that have happened in a couple of months. I'll pass the sample around, at least as you can see it. What we're involved with and what we're trying to do fundamentally is to replace plastic in packaging and create solutions that are sustainable, primarily with paper, and that will get rid of the single-time use plastic. We have a huge impact in plastic packaging. There are almost 161 million tons of plastic that we use just for single-time use. And almost all of that goes into landfill, or it goes into oceans, or it goes into the air. There are now, countries are really realizing this, how big a problem there is in Uruguay. Just about 3 weeks ago, there was a forum to try to start to bring regulation to some of this. In Los Angeles, they just banned polystyrene foam cups and plates as well. So there's definitely a lot of municipalities. We're focused on bubble wrap. That's our big one. The amount of bubble wrap that's made is astounding. It could go around the earth 250 times every year, and all that is ending up wasted in our land and our oceans. In the air. Amazon is shipping about 60 million pounds of plastic, about 600 million pounds of plastic, and about 20 million of those are ending up in the oceans. So, really, really big problem. It's the other one. But anyway, our solution is called. This is our first solution. It's made from 100% recycled paper. It's 100% compostable. It's 100% recyclable as well. And it is competitively priced compared to regular bubble wrap. It's also performs well, it's visually identifiable as bubble. So when you see it, you think that's bubble, and that actual consumer level has a big, that's very valuable. And it's malleable, so there are a lot of paper products that don't have the same kind of malleability for packaging. And it integrates also in existing fulfillment. We have a trial going on with Macy's right now. They're actually pulling in the material and using it in their existing bubble wrap systems. So this is a little check off, but when you compare it to corrugated or layered or dented or other types of paper, we perform much better than those products. Compared to plastic, obviously there's a whole sustainability problem with that. And there are other advantages that we have with dispensing equipment and other equipment. What we're trying to do in our model is that the long-term model that we're shooting to make is to take our paper that is completely flat in a step one process, and then basically expand that and form that on site. So there's a lot of space savings, and that's what's done with air packaging. When I got started in packaging, I started at a company called Novus that made machines that would take the plastic film and then inflate that. And so there's that savings of shipping product that's basically just air, and instead shipping a very, very compact product has a lot of advantages. So that's what we're doing. This is the machine we're building right now. We call it the DL3000, but someone else called it the waffle maker. So we kind of like, that's a waffle maker. You can also take it and stack it, stack the material so it can be very, very condensed and very packed. The markets, we're focusing on e-commerce. We currently have customers in the e-commerce space. One is a marketing company that sells bathroom fixtures, and a cosmetics company. Tatcha is a brand that is under Unilever. Home goods stores like Home Depot, and moving and storage, small UPS kinds of stores. As well as another big market that we've found now is thermal protection. We can keep things cold for very extended hours. We can go up to about 82 hours. So if you have meats or foods that want to get shipped, there's a real supply chain demand for this. There are only about 4 major suppliers of these kinds of materials, and they have to buy them in very large truckloads, and we can supply small quantities, and we can make the product on site. So that's what we're doing. A little bit of that, our customer traction. We have our first store is going on with Home Depot. So if you go online and put in a paper bubble wrap, Home Depot will show up, and that's our product. We're also selling on Amazon and Unilever. We also started when we worked with a local distributor here, Monterey Bay Packaging, and they continued, and Ohana Packaging is up in the Bay Area. Our pipeline, one of the big problems in this whole market is just the pipeline of getting customers. These are long lead customers. And in this example, Home Depot has almost been about a year of working with Pratt. The Canadian Post Office is kind of a really big one that we're really hopeful is they just, the company we've been working with up there just won the contract, and Public was one of those offerings. And also, again, we mentioned Macy's and just heard about Lowe's today, so we're keeping our fingers crossed that those are going forward. We've got 7 patents on the processes. 5 have issued, and those cover the raw materials, the machines, the process, and as well as integrating the pulp. So whether that's in an envelope or in a thermal producing method, that's the same thing. And several handmade as well. This is a slide showing a little bit about the converting machine, and I love to talk about this, but I won't go too much into it. But basically, we have the first step is the converting process that's done very high speeds. We can go to about 100 feet a minute. That process can probably run up to about 1,000 feet a minute. So a lot of improvement that can be gotten there. This is our step 2 machine that takes the flat roll and then presses it into the form that's been passed around. That machine we built, and that can run approximately 4,000 feet an hour. And these are secondary machines that we're building. We just finished, this one's a cutting dispenser, and that's useful for supplies, an e-commerce facility where they're putting up a roll and then they can press the button and then it automatically cuts how much they want. And this is an envelope making machine, and we're trying to find we have a company that's potentially going to license that part of the business from us. A little bit about our team. Myself and Steve Martin is out on the East Coast. He's been involved in sales in paper for about 20 years. Andrew Perkins I've worked with for about 30 years in packaging. And Ryan Garcia is an economist, but also a U.S. Army officer. Helps out a lot with logistics as well. Nigel's been on board for about a year, helping out with building machines. It's really doing well. David Reeves, VP of Sales for a company called Revolution Plastics, which takes recycled plastics and tries to repurpose those. One of our, this slide, this is our go-to market strategy. So for the very large retailers, we're working with the packaging distributors that they normally use for paper or corrugated. So big players like Pratt, International Paper, all the people, they generally have mills. So we're working with them to then to get into those customers. The enterprise customers, other sort of large enterprise customers who are relying on our investor network and just trying to make those contacts directly and then pull in these larger distributors to help us with that. The smaller distribution market, we're working with distributors and sort of B2B customers and using the machines to help add that value. That's really sort of, it's like the razor blade and shaver model. And then the thermal insulation, working with those. So our projected revenue for 2023 is about 1.9 million. Again, a large part of that coming from our retail and thermal customers. We have one large, just to give you an idea of the thermal customer, a very small thermal customer will use as much as a Home Depot. So they're running about 20 to 30,000 feet of puddle a week. And that's comparable to what Home Depot online sales would do. So it's very, very large potential in there. And our margins are, we're about 50% gross margin. A lot of that can be increased through scaling. So that's one of the uses of funds, increasing our speeds, minimizing our costs. For example, we ship the adhesive that we use is a starch-based adhesive, completely compostable. That comes from the East Coast. So we're spending a lot of money to get those adhesives here, and we plan to actually make those ourselves. So some of these things that we can scale up and do to improve our margins as well. We've at this point funded the business with about 1.5 million from our founders, which is myself and Ryan Garcia, and we're offering a safe instrument for raising 1.5 million in the next round. And again, that use of proceeds is for expanding the team, improving our efficiencies, developing our sales and marketing outreach, which is really, a lot of these customers have been, it's been me calling and somehow creating that, but we really need to continue that effort and grow that effort on the sales side. That's it. So if you have any questions, I'd love to give you a tour, and please feel free to come to the facility as well. Cool.
Questions? Yeah, Don.
I noticed in your revenue slide there, you're going from 1.9 to next year at 15.8.
Yep.
Curious, how do you ramp up that quickly?
Well, the biggest roadblock for doing that is it's the second step machine. So because we now have that second step machine, we plan to build significantly more of those and actually send those on site to the customers for the thermal part of it. So the big areas of growth are one is in the thermal and one is on the retail shelf. The distributor market is slower, it's much steadier. It's going to be slower. So our revenue stream is counting on one big chain, one big retail chain. So we have a Home Depot, they're doing it online now, we're counting on the expansion to those stores. Lowe's, we learned today that meeting's gone very well, so we're very hopeful they're going to start their trial in early 2023. And then with the food side, those are direct to LP3, third-party logistics providers. So we would provide them with basically a system. So they would get that step 2 machine, they would buy the product from us, and then they would get the machines to make the packages on site so they can choose. We've identified kind of the one-day market deliveries within California as really the avenue for trying to kind of pick a niche in there. And there's a huge, within California, that's just a really big market already. And then go to the 2-day. But those, this customer Wild Green, I don't know, they use 500 packages a week, so that's equating to about 20,000 feet. A typical LP3 is shipping on the order of 20,000 packages. And we've also been in touch now with United Healthcare. They are shipping food for diabetics, and so that's where we're relying on that growth. So our plan is, as soon as we're done with this fundraising, we probably build a couple more of our step 2 machines, get those ready, have a step 1, and then.
So is the constraint more on the supply side, being able to produce, or on being able to?
The demand side is very large. I mean, we sort of, most of the questions we get is, can you supply us? Can you do this? And it isn't easy. I mean, the Home Depot trial, it was 15 miles, and we did a lot of learning. It's 15 miles, and that's, like I said, I mean, that's just from here to Gilroy, right? You got to go around the earth, and so it's the issue is our ability to produce, and then with that also comes the scaling and the reduction in costs that I get, which then. So yeah, it's a feedback. Yeah, it is really a scaling. It's a scaling thing for us. So the market is absolutely there. So.
Yes, advanced. Our treasure tree, we're targeting 500 units in sales in 25. We're working for that. So how do we, and our trees fall flat, so they can store easily, and we're planning on mailing them, shipping them. How do we access your technology for our little guy?
How do they get public?
How do we get public?
How do
I get public to you? So ideally, actually, Monterey Bay packaging.
Okay.
When we're local here, that's what I would suggest.
Okay.
We're happy to give samples of local friends and family, but really, we're also trying to support them. So, as an example, with our Amazon sales, we price those Amazon sales so that we do really well on Amazon, just selling at the store. We price that so that our distributor can sell and be more competitive. And in the same way, we have to worry about how to price to Home Depot or so that's all. So as a business locally here, I would suggest Monterey Bay packaging.
Thank you.
I have one other question, and now I can't remember what it was. How far does the $1.5 million get you, do you think? How long, both how long and where do you expect to be at that point in time when you need to do your next raise?
So the landing of these larger accounts that are already in the pipeline, we should be in a very good position to keep rolling without the need for
Further funding?
funding.
The business can fund itself?
That's, yes, because at the profit level. Now, there is an issue of investing in equipment. For example, the step one equipment, there are cheaper ways that we think we could do it. So there's investment in research and development that we're making, and it's the balance of trying to understand how much do we invest in that, and that's what might require another balance. So it really will start to become a bit more of an equipment business in a way as we move forward, where we're providing the step, and also the automation. So for example, on the step one equipment, we can automate that whole part. There are things called turd reminders that basically, right now we take a 40-pound roll of paper, and the guys are strong, and they're young, and they do a lot of baseball, and they can lift the roll and put it up. But ideally, we have a 50-foot diameter roll that weighs 3,000 pounds and is all crane lifted, and then that machine starts and it doesn't stop. And then there are machines that you can take that roll and merge it with the next one, so the machine never stops. So that's where the investment will go into developing those, and that just improves efficiency.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. All right, and our next competitor was also in Startup Challenge this year, right?
Correct.
And you had also pitched at the Startup Investment Community Capital Expo the year before, I think.
No, I have not.
You had not?
We did just the one.
Just the one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Kurt was the economic development manager, director for Watsonville and then for Seaside.
And for Pacific Road for a little while,
So you've
and
been
for
around.
West Sacramento too.
Cool. And now he's taking economic development private, so to speak, with a really cool product that I will let him explain to you. That was too easy.
That was way too easy. Well, hi everybody, I'm Kurt Overmeyer, as Raj just told you. And who's heard of an accessory dwelling unit? Raise your hand. I know you have that, come on now. Well, accessory dwelling unit, just so for those of you that didn't raise your hand, is basically a backyard apartment. Some people call them in-laws or granny units. The state of California in 2015 made it so that every residentially zoned lot in the state of California can have not one, but 2 ADUs, if someone so chooses, and then also made it so local zoning laws that were designed to prevent that from happening were just kind of shoved aside by the state of California. But what's happened, not a lot of them have been built. To just give you a quick example, in Los Angeles County, they issued permits for 25,000 in 2020. And of those, only about 10,000 have been actually built. And most of them haven't been started. The reason for that is because building ADUs is enormously expensive, and if you do it as a one-off and a stick frame. So the way I came up with this idea with me and my partner Rick is my uncle was sick and he was in the hospital at Mayo, and I went to see him out in Phoenix, and Rick said, it was in the middle of the worst part of COVID, and Rick said, did you get your vaccine? I'm like, yeah, you got a mask? Yeah, come on over. So I came over to Rick's house, we had dinner, and he had this sitting on his desk, right here. And what this is a stressed skin panel, or a structurally insulated panel made of 26 gauge steel and a structural polystyrene that snaps together. And weighs almost nothing compared to traditional building materials, and are built in a factory for less than any traditional building material all in to frame a house or to build what us people in the economic development or in the development industry call the shell. Well, Rick and I started talking, and we realized that we could use this particular thing to help us build accessory dwelling units at scale without actually having to be at scale. So here's our contract manufacturing factory, and give you an idea of how the panels work, and our Keystone ADU, which is 512 square feet, 1 bedroom. It's in almost every standard lot in California that's on the grid. Those are usually 50 feet by 100 feet. It's designed to fit perfectly on that within the setbacks that are allowed by the state. We have several more models. I'm going to show you that next. We have backyard offices. We do those from 120 square feet to 240 square feet. Studios, which you can actually live in, from 240 square feet to 384 square feet. And then we have our 1 bedrooms. We actually have a 384 square feet 1 bedroom. And then 2 bedrooms that go all the way up to 896 square feet. And then we have carriage houses that can be all the way up to 576 square feet for the unit above. I left off of this, and did it on purpose, is because this is modular and because we can do the interior however we want. That carriage house can also be a very quick and easy way for somebody with a small lot development to build multifamily exterior loaded apartment buildings. So we have turnkey plans that you can pull off the shelf and that you can build on your lot. Tomorrow we have some of those done. We're working on more. That's what we're asking money for. But unlike the panels that you get, or unlike the ADUs that you would get if you ordered a prefab ADU, there are several companies that do that. You get to pick your own flooring. You get to pick the style of windows and doors. You get the cabinets and fixtures that you want, the interior and exterior finishes that you want, and the appliances and washers and washer and dryer that you want. But you can still do that for cheaper than, unless you go completely crazy on finishes, for cheaper than our nearest competitor in the prefab space. We also have options. You can do a car charger. We can add a solar system and a battery, a storage area with a built-in shade canopy and a built-in bicycle storage. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I thought that this is a different size than what I built this slideshow on. Even better than that, it has 2-hour fire separation all the way around. So even in a wildfire where you're talking 14,000 degrees Fahrenheit, if it hits your house directly, you'll be safe inside of it for an hour, which is really a remarkable thing. But for a normal fire, it won't, nothing will happen bad for 2 hours. And then on top of that, even if the thing completely gets destroyed, you are in the middle of a wildfire and a conflagration, and the worst thing happens, and your unit is completely destroyed, there will be not one single thing in our unit that can catch on fire unless you basically put it on the surface of the sun. It'll melt, the steel will melt, you'll have a little bit of a mess to clean up where it turned into a puddle, but you won't be contributing to a wildfire because your structure's burning. We also were thinking about this, and we have those backyard offices, and realized that right now, all throughout California, Oregon, and Washington, and even in Las Vegas, people are building what they call these tiny home villages to help with homeless interdiction. There's this idea in homeless prevention that's called permanent supportive housing and housing first policy. And basically the idea there is if you have mental health challenges and you have drug addiction or alcohol addiction problems, but your very first, that foundational part of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, that your food, shelter, and water are not being met, there's no way on earth that you can deal with those other issues. There's no way on earth that you can go get a job. There's no way on earth that you can help yourself at that point. So the first thing that we have to provide people is that first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we came up with a emergency deployment unit, and that emergency deployment unit was, we were thinking about, FEMA, natural disaster areas, and of course homelessness. And what we realized is with our panels that we could build this for only slightly more than our 2 competitors in that space. The first one's Tough Shed that you've all seen if you go like to Home Depot. Would you want to live in one of those? No, me either. And I don't think any of the homeless people are really helped out a lot by those kind of tiny home villages. And then another company called Pallet. They use stamp metal that's screwed together with sharp edges exposed, no insulation, and the door doesn't lock. Ours will have locking doors. They have insulation. They can have heating and cooling. They can actually have good electrical power and solar. And if a community or a foundation so chooses, we can actually have private bathrooms in each and every unit. And we think that we can sell by 5 years from now 3,000 of these a year, just based on what's out there with foundation funding and some other things that are going on. So what we have first to do, we want to build some model homes. We want to build them in primary markets. A friend of mine has graciously agreed to build the very first one on her property in Capitola, on Capitola Road. We have a location identified in Orange County. We have a location identified in Los Angeles, and we have a location identified in San Jose. We're going to do at least one. We'd like to do 5. So that people can come and see them, because one of the hardest things about selling this is people want to come and look at it, to see it, because it's a novel construction method and they're not sure what to think. We also want to develop a community of sales partners, and that's going to be local general contractors, Habitat for Humanity. Hopefully, we'd like to work with local real estate agents and have them be a sales channel. And we'll do that by offering a steep discount on the retail price of the kits and allow those people to take whatever part of whatever they can between our retail price and what we offer to them and sell those for us. And then, of course, we also want to have e-commerce based sales as well, where someone can just go online, they can order, they can get financing, they can do all of the things that you would normally expect to do if you were going to build a unit. And then we want to make this something that isn't just West Coast. And currently, in every single primary market in the United States, there's a severe housing shortage. The stuff that the Federal Reserve is doing to tame inflation is missing something really important. That more than half of our inflation is because of the housing shortage in primary markets. So we want to disrupt those primary markets and build a bunch of ADUs and houses, and also those small lot multifamily developments as well. We have some competitors. My favorite's Abode. They're really cool. I really like their style and what they build. But for 340 square feet, they charge $250,000. Here in Seaside, for 512 square feet, we know, because we've done the math and worked with the contractor to figure it out, we can build that same unit for $160,000, not including solar, and Abode doesn't include solar out of the box. Boxable, they claim to be $50,000, but if you go try to buy one, it's $210,000. And again, 340 square feet. Prefab ADU doesn't really look very good. That's kind of their marquee model. They're just fine. They're prefabs. These top 3, and including Mighty small homes and Crate Modular, all require a crane. All of them are 15 to 25% more than our units, ground truth pricing. And then the last but not least is Studio Shed, and I'm just going to pass this around because I want you to feel how light it is. Studio Shed is doing something very similar to us, but what they ship is a kit of structurally insulated panels that are made from a similar foam to ours, but then they use OSB or oriented strand board that's 3/4 of an inch thick. So our 4x8 panel weighs 46 pounds, their 4x8 panel weighs 135. So if you're a homeowner that's handy and you want to do it yourself, which one are you buying? Yeah. So here's our projections, and this is based on just a tiny, tiny shred of the market. We can reach these projections by doing just under 0.5% of the Los Angeles County in the greater Los Angeles market. And we think we can capture at least that much, if not more. So here's actually my partner Rick, who unfortunately his wife got very sick, and they moved to the Bahamas, and she still hasn't resolved. She has an issue that gives her these horrible headaches, and she can't stand up for very long. But they decided to back out and basically handed over all of their equity to me. But this is their house in the Bahamas, and you can see that it's on stilts. And what you can't see is that, because it's low tide when we took these pictures, is the ocean goes under their house a little bit. Rated for Category 4 hurricane. And it took them, in this very difficult place to build, a day and a half to put together the entire shell. Not a crane, and 4 guys that they found at a day working place in Exuma, Bahamas. So here's how we came to be. I'm Kurt Overmeyer. Rick Cartel is an architect with 30 years of experience in the state of California and all over the country. He's responsible. He actually built, designed both iterations of the Seaside Auto Mall and the Salinas Auto Mall and the Watsonville Auto Mall and the Auto Mall in Santa Cruz, as well as a bunch in Carmichael and the Sacramento area and Phoenix. And Beth, his lovely wife, who's been involved in NGOs and a bunch of other things, she helped us get this far, and I will be forever in their debt for what they helped us do. I forgot the part. The things we need money for is I got to build that sales force. I need to hire some people. I need a part-time CFO. I need a marketing agency. I've got a really great branding guy that's going to work on this for us as soon as we've got the money to pay him. And then in year 3, I need to hire somebody to help me to do. It's a lot of work and a lot of lead time to build that sales channel for the homelessness thing, because you're working with NGOs and foundations and local governments and state governments and applying for federal grants. So I really need somebody that can fill that role for me. And then I'm a manufacturing engineer, because in year 3 we also want to build a factory. We want to build it somewhere on a Native American reservation. Right now we're looking at business park in Corscold that's on the Chichansi Reservation, and we're looking at a place on the Navajo Reservation just between Phoenix and Scottsdale. We're probably going to go with Phoenix because there's somebody in that business park already that manufactures our foam. But if we can find a manufacturer in Corscold, it might be good to be in California for our manufacturing. Right now, my contract manufacturer cuts the panels with a skill saw. So it's a little bit more labor intensive than we wanted. We want to completely automate the factory. My contract manufacturer has already purchased all of the equipment. It's sitting mothballed in their warehouse in Tampa Bay, Florida. We want to move that to Phoenix. They've agreed to do that and build that out, but we need $7 to $10 million to do that. That's going to be our Series A round. But right now, we're going through a bunch of stuff. Getting orders, testing. I've got 47 units in my pipeline right now. Marketing, R&D, and then we need to build that manufacturing and distribution facility. And it's not going to be 2023 because we're about a year and a half behind from this. But we're hoping to get started on identifying the spot and building it out in 2024, 2025 timeframe. And then we want to expand our markets to the places that we didn't identify on the slide with the thing. I don't really need to tell you all of this, but we have labor shortages in California because people can't afford housing, that homelessness is a big problem, that high rents are a big problem. And Doug can tell you that high rents are a big problem for his staff, because we've talked about it before. And obviously emergency housing, we have wildfires every year in a way that I don't think, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would you believe this? I wouldn't have, but that's what's happening, and we want to be ready for that market as it continues to expand. We want to help those people that have lost homes in fires. So we're raising funding on WeFunder. Say hi to Hillary Talbot, who has been awesome and helped us so much getting as far as we have. My lead investor is hopefully within the next 3 days going to be putting $50,000 in there. They're waiting for a loan to close on a commercial property so that they can do that. We need to spend conservatively the dollar amounts you see above, and get to where we can actually fulfill this easy design ordering finance online. So our 6 weeks or less delivery, and we already have a 50% lower cost, but I'd like to get that down to like 30% lower, and then build out that network of contractors and people that know how to build this and that can do it quickly. So with that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to write me a check, let's talk.
Great, thank you. Questions?
I was wondering about electrical. How do you get the electrical panels and is that?
Sure. Yeah, our kits are actually shipped as a shell. So what you get is everything to build that shell. So the panels, all of the extrusions to go around the windows and doors, and the caps to the walls, and the extrusion that's the track that you build the walls in on whatever kind of foundation that you use. And then on the inside, because as you could probably guess, since the panels are made of steel, they're sound reflective, and they'd be really loud inside if you didn't put drywall in. So they also ship with furring strips that are made of steel that screw right into the panels. You screw the drywall on top of that, and you simply place your lighting and your electrical behind that.
Plumbing too? Plumbing too?
Yeah, plumbing too, but also the interior walls are steel framed with purlins or steel studs. And so we are designed to all put the plumbing in those interior walls and a good amount of the electrical as well, just because it's a better place to put it, it's easier to do. And you know, when you put plumbing on the outside of things, it tends to freeze.
Yeah.
If you've ever lived in the upper Midwest like I have.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That brings us to the end of the evening. I want to thank our great speakers this evening. They were all fascinating. All right. Thank our sponsors and partners, and a reminder about Startup Factories. Send people to Startup Factories so they can be up here next year talking about this really cool stuff that they're doing. January coming up. January 10th, we'll be back again. Don't know if we'll be here or where we'll be, but we'll let you know. We're going to be looking ahead to the year of 2023. We'll have some great speakers to talk to us about what's going to be going on in this region in 2023. That's it.